HasanAbi corporate. I don't even know what that is. What is this? Current affairs. Capitalism didn't make the iPhone. Oh, this is. Let's see what Nathan J. Robinson's outlet had to say about that.
If you're like me, and I know I am, you've seen a lot of very stupid videos on the internet. Like this.
Do you use an iPhone, Android, MacBook, PC? Read on a Kindle? Watch TV and movies on Netflix? Are you on Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat?
Immediately, when I see a fucking dildo like this, I'm like, oh God, I'm about to hear some of the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my entire goddamn life, dude. Capitalism fosters innovation like the top of the hour ad break. You don't understand. It's all the best parts of the fucking stream. Immediately, I saw that PragerU and this wiry, pasty ass with a bad haircut. I was like, yeah, all right, yeah. It definitely doesn't help that they all look like such dildos, dude.
You probably use many, if not all of these things. And if you're like me, you love them. In today's world, they're practically necessities. Where do you think they came from? From entrepreneurs with great ideas and the freedom to test them in the marketplace. That is what is known as capitalism.
Yes, smartphones were created thanks to capitalism. Except, of course, that the original name for the internet was ARPANET because it was developed by the U.S. military's research arm and affiliated universities. The original address of Google was not google.com, but google.stanford.edu because it was developed on a publicly subsidized research campus. The original Wi-Fi network was AlohaNet because the U of Hawaii struggled to network its island campuses and developed new radio technology to do it. So consider the internet. The network of networks, which arose to meet the need of scientists to share access to then scarce computing resources and the U.S. military's need for a decentralized nuclear survivable network and to manage its vast global espionage network. Well, that enormous project was not taken up by a private market actor, but by DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Project Administration, the Pentagon's main research arm. The government fully asked AT&T to take it over in 1972, but the company turned them down. So the state-created ARPANET went online in 1977. Now, by the early 80s, many universities were connected up to the ARPANET via funding from the National Science Foundation, the big U.S. Research Academy. As usage climbed, though, U.S. telecom companies finally began taking an interest, and pressure rose to privatize the networks as private investment in commercial networks for companies, schools, or even individuals was gradually spreading in the wake of that pioneering ARPA and NSF network investment. Now, hilariously, when the military brass and government policymakers ordered privatization of the technology, the idea was that there would be multiple commercial suppliers to the public of this networking technology. But the cable ISPs went on a giant merger orgy after deregulation of the industry in the Telecommunications Act of 1995.
Yeah, also, that's why your internet is dog shit. Just remember that. The government invented it. The government built the fucking infrastructure for it and then handed it off to fucking private enterprise so they could ass fuck you, okay? And eliminate competition, okay? And never ever improve their fucking operations, even though they lied to the government. They got like billions of dollars of tax breaks on top of that with a handshake and a promise that they were going to actually upgrade the infrastructure, and then they never did. They never ever fucking did it. And then on top of that, some of these states or municipalities were like, this shit, YOLO, we're Chattanooga, Tennessee, baby. We're going to offer public broadband as a competitor to the fucking private enterprise out there. And then it worked so goddamn well in Chattanooga, Tennessee that the ISPs saw that and were like, oh no, if we have municipalities offering competitive and much faster speed ISPs, if they provide the service themselves, no one is going to buy our shit. So what do? They made it illegal. That is literally the United States of America. Every aspect of your life that is slowly getting worse and worse while you're paying more and more for shittier fucking service, as all of those other working parts of the service that you are living off of, that you need to survive at this point, all of those services also used to be handled by Americans, okay? At least American citizens were the ones who were literally fucking working on the support line. They were working on every different aspect of it. But guess what? You don't need support to be that good. Who gives a fuck? First, we'll ship it off to India, and then we'll turn around and we'll even fire the Indian support line people, and we'll just make it automated.
They became the great cell phone oligopolies of today, like Verizon and AT&T, as well as the great cable monopolies like Comcast and AT&T. Now,
why weren't the ISPs sued for failing to keep promises? Why the fuck would they be sued to fail to keep the promises? They can get away with anything they want. This entire government is not designed to enforce rules and regulations that put the interests of the citizens over the interests of profits. This entire government is designed, and its regulatory mechanism and its enforcement mechanism is only there to make sure that we can max out profits.
According to Wi-Fi, the modern world's favorite thing to both use and complain about, the local radio signals that allow you to do mobile computing within range of a router are the main means that we access the internet today. And perhaps unsurprisingly, it was invented by a public research university. In the 60s, the U of Hawaii's various island labs couldn't communicate with the main computer in Honolulu, so using a pair of high-speed UHF channels to access computing resources. The resulting Aloha Net became the tech precursor to Wi-Fi, and the project was also partially funded by ARPA and the Navy. No private investors in sight. And similarly, prominent tech innovator and monumental corporate asshole Steve Jobs famously claimed at the original iPhone launch that Apple had itself developed and patented the smartphone multi-touch interface.
And we have invented a new technology called multi-touch, which is phenomenal. It works like magic. You don't need a stylus. You can do multi-finger gestures on it. And boy, have we patented it.
But in fact, the highly versatile multi-touch interface was developed by a U of Delaware grad student under an NSF CIA research program before being purchased.
Yeah, wait till you find out that the CIA also has a private equity fund, and two, they have funded a shit ton of projects. One of the most important ones, obviously, being GPS. Like, Google Maps operates on... Yeah, In-Q-Tel is the name of the bank that the CIA operates. You can say source, but like, I mean, just Google it. Like, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Here you go. In-Q-Tel, formerly Peleus and In-Q-It, is an American not-for-profit venture capital firm based in Arlington, Virginia. It is the CIA's bank. It is the CIA's corporation, or its corporate arm, that invests in new technologies that are important for the American Defense Department and the American intelligence communities. NSF-CIA is not a CIA-based research program. Google Maps is a retired NSA app, not even kidding. It was founded by Norm Augustine, a former CEO of Lockheed Martin, and by Gilman Louie, who was In-Q-Tel's first CEO. In-Q-Tel's mission is to identify and invest in companies developing cutting-edge technologies that serve the United States national security interests. For the record, this is no fucking different than what was the USSR like government body that controlled Tetris? It's the same shit. No, not KGB. No, there's a specific ministry that was Elorg. Thank you. According to the Washington Post, In-Q-Tel started as the idea of the then director George Tenet. Congress approved, which, by the way, I think In-Q-Tel, or people that work at In-Q-Tel, were also involved in the Tetris thing, but that's for a different day. Electronorg Technica, to be more specific. Everything is here. 50 inventions you might not know were funded by the U.S. government. The civilian aviation industry, the Doppler radar, the flu shot, MRIs, accelerometers, supercomputers, microchips, LED lights, Vela satellites, the cell sorter, autonomous robots, 3D seismic imaging, PBI. That was NASA. Closed captioning, barcodes, computer simulation software, modern hydraulic fracturing, modern Goodyear tires, reverse auctions, modern wind energy, enriched infant formula, the hepatitis B vaccine, the Haemophilus influenzae type B vaccine, lactose-free milk, Zetavudyne, AZTs, the anti-retroviral drug, the Human Genome Project, genetic tracing services, smartphones, GPS, the Clementine spacecraft. In the 1970s, the Defense Department began working on creating a comprehensive satellite navigation system for national defense and scientific purposes. A lot of this stuff is the reason why I say the government is big and the government is good. The government is expensive and it's vast and it's got a shit ton of resources. And the reality is that it's a good thing that it's got a shit ton of resources. It's just something that we never consider because under a capitalist organization of the economy, capitalist dogma dictates that you forget all of the different working parts and all of the collective action and all of the public funding that goes into the amenities that you take advantage of. If you are not beholden to the profit motive, if profit is not your master in that situation, there are different incentivization structures that still yield not only technological innovation, but actual technological innovation that changes your lives in a dramatic way. One part of this problem, of course, is, and I say this regularly, is that the military is a jobs program. I just wish that America's manufacturing output and its largest jobs program did not fucking rely on, the necessity, something that is a absolute necessity, which is the continuation of empire. Every part of our output is specifically designed to keep fucking hurting other people, to keep endless conquest, endless bloodshed. Really sad. The internet, student-centered active learning, the fast multipole method, lead-free solder, the reactor excursion and leak analysis program, Google. Although this invention was somewhat inadvertent, the NSF funded the Digital Library Initiative to index websites in the early days of the internet. The NSF and CIA went on to fund Stanford graduate Sergey Brin, who received an NSF solder, whatever. Fuck you. NSF Student Fellowship and Larry Page's research to make an algorithm that ranks web pages by importance. By 1998, this became Google. They use taxpayer money to develop all these. Technically, it's not even taxpayer money to develop all these. They just print money to develop all this shit. Touchscreens. With help from the NSF fellowships and grants, as we were talking about, researchers at the University of Delaware created what would become touchscreens people now use on tablets and smartphones. Doctoral student Wayne Westerman created the company Fingerworks, which was later purchased by Apple for their own devices. And then Apple acted like they invented it, and then they fucking patented the shit out of it.
Just by Apple in 2005, a good 2 years before the introduction of the first iPhone. And the attractive liquid crystal displays were created by a Pentagon-organized industry consortium working on flat display panels, with the breakthrough technology emerging under development at manufacturer Westinghouse. But the company then shut down the program, leading the project head to appeal to a series of US tech giants to keep the display program alive. IBM, Comcast, Xerox, 3M, and was turned away by all of them until the project was revived under a contract from ARPA in the late 80s. The global positioning system required for Google Maps and staggering from local bar to local bar was developed by the DoD in the 1970s for more accurate deployments of materials and munitions. The lithium-ion batteries essential to our power-hungry, and of course, have a very similar, the lithium-ion batteries essential to our power-hungry devices have a very similar story arising from the NSF and the Department of Energy. And of course, Google itself, is at the center of most of our modern computing lives, was originally google.stanford.edu. It was developed there with funds from American taxpayers and from the state of California, with the long-term research stability of a major research institution and freedom from the need to turn a short-run dollar.
That's the major part of this puzzle. It's not that there aren't brilliant scientists working on the private enterprise side of things. There are. It's just that they get their orders from their bosses, who want them to innovate in a very specific direction, a direction that will yield as much short-term profit as possible. And when your goal is to max out short-term profit, You are not allowed to fail. You are not allowed to fail for years and years and years. And that is what you need for major change. Sad state of affairs.
Enabling long-run research. There, Page and Brin, the company founders, wrote with detachment in one of their early research papers, which is still viewable online, that advertising funding search engines will be inherently biased toward the advertisers. We believe the issue of advertising causes enough mixed incentives that it's crucial to have a competitive search engine that is transparent and in the academic realm.
This is why you will get more. This is blatantly false. Take Uber. That is purely private innovation that makes neither short-term nor long-term profit. True. Facts. Okay, sometimes in the age of free money, you can have the Silicon Valley tech bubble that doesn't even have to be profitable. It can just simply tell you that this is a different kind of thing. It's disruptive, a secret third thing, which we like to call disruptive technology, okay? Now, if you slap the tech sticker on a bad boy nowadays in our heavily financialized, stock market focused capitalist organization of the economy, you slap that fucking tech sticker on it, dude. Many of the money holders don't understand anything, so they'll just go, "Oh my God, this is tech. We should evaluate it not like we would assign value with the normal market fundamentals. We should just look at that and go, that's actually much more expensive because later down the line, I promise you we'll be able to monopolize. I promise we'll be first to market and we'll be a monopoly later down the line, and then we can actually rake in profits." Uber stole their business model from South American countries. I mean, Uber didn't do anything. Uber did not innovate anything. They just innovated a new way. Uber innovated a new fucking way to disrupt regulation. The only thing Uber did was take an existing service, okay, and go, and this is, by the way, it was heavily illegal before Uber everywhere on the planet. I grew up in Turkey, so I know firsthand. It's called korsan taksi, okay? It means pirate taxis. Very, very illegal. It's independent owned and operated people that just drove you around for a cheaper price point than the regular cabs. It's very dangerous, and it was very illegal for that reason. Now, it's not even a new or innovative fucking product in that regard. Uber just looked at that, which exists still to this day and existed in Latin American countries and other developing nations, like I mentioned, like Turkey, right? And, you know, they looked at that and were like, why don't we streamline this and eviscerate existing labor regulation and existing government regulations surrounding taxis? And everyone was like, wow, that's crazy. Is that a tech company? Fuck yeah, dude. $7 gazillion. You don't ever have to make money. You don't ever actually have to legitimately turn a profit. Don't worry. You said it's a tech company, so it's fine. It is the most hyper-libertarian and Capistan bullshit of all time. The pursuit of eternal growth is bad for several reasons, but one of them is scope creep. Patreon didn't need a total brand refresh. DocuSign doesn't need 8,000 employees. Mattress companies don't need weekly newsletters. Just sell me a fucking mattress is, across some sort of cultural axis, a compliment to run the damn ball. Yeah. A lot of people are critical of Patreon. Obviously, myself and all of my friends and favorite content creators rely on Patreon. And from what I understand, they're trying to reorganize Patreon some way. And it's even if you have a decent structure that you have created, even if you have a decent product that you have created, you can't just keep it the way it is. You have to literally turn around and make it something different, new, flashy. I'm a biotech industry scientist. My boss won't even let me do an updated version of the same tech we are using that will make me a month to do and save countless hours and dollars once implemented. Not enough time. So part of the reason why people say, Hasan, why are you angry all the time? Part of the reason why I'm angry all the time is this, okay? Because not only is capitalism not responsible for innovation, it is seen as though it is the only way that we can engage in innovation through the profit motive. It's actually the fucking opposite. That's why I'm mad all the time, because I say these things that are objectively true, and people fucking look at me and go, nah, that sounds like some commie bullshit. Shut the fuck up. Except you're perfectly calm on leftovers? Yeah, except that also frustrates me, specifically because I'm perfectly calm and I explain these things piece by piece, and a bunch of shitheads online still go, I don't agree with you. You're a fucking dirty commie. Also, you're a bad guy, and I'm just going to keep saying you're a bad guy. I'm going to clip chimp you. I'm going to fucking run the gamut. I'm going to try to make your life a living fucking hell. And it's like, okay, man, well, your life sucks, and it's not going to get better, and now you think you're going to get a fucking crumb of happiness by, like, telling the guy who objectively is on your fucking side, whether you appreciate it or not, that he's bad for telling you these kinds of things. They're fucking tanky. All right, let's keep going.
Obviously, they got over that, as Google has since played the leading role in covering the internet with ugly, slow-loading, brain-eroding eyesore advertisements. Now, the point of all this is that private institutions in the market are under systemic and legal obligation to make money quickly to reward their capitalist investors. And expensive, uncertain long-run research is inevitably harder and harder to justify as fiscal quarters tick by with few money-making breakthroughs to show for it. Now, with these market incentives against long-run research, no wonder that the internet and mobile tech arose from the academic and military research settings, where steady funding is more or less assured, and near-term stock price movements don't dictate where the products get axed. And the great economist Mariana Mazzucato observed in her book that private businesses dominate overall spending on research and development, or R&D. They're responsible for about 67% of the total spending, but on basic research and development, studying subjects with no immediate commercial value, but sometimes stumbling across big new technologies, the federal government and the university system hugely dominate at 72% of that research spending. So the point isn't that the military should have discretion on where it spends its hundreds upon billions of dollars every year, or that the warped, pitiless nightmare of modern war is worth it for the high-tech spin-offs. The point is that the public setting is the natural space for scientific and technological research, providing the funding, managing the long-run research uncertainty, and maybe imposing some publicly demanded constraints on what can be done with the technology, which people are more and more interested in. So a movement for online socialism would allow democratic decisions on our broad direction of future research and create limits to the use of our personal data, and perhaps help us guide the potential of the internet toward its most positive potentials of enjoyment, education, and fulfilling possibilities. And also, we would have the advantage of telling the 1% just what the fucking terms of service are.
Anyway, democratic research is a nice idea. Too bad capitalism. Democratic research is a nice idea, except it's such a nice idea that it already exists. That's the point. The point is, it is already happening. And it will never stop happening because capital owners understand that without it, they have no innovation. The issue is explaining that to a broader population without them fucking trying to execute you for being a commie, a disgusting commie who wants to, I don't know what people think I want to make everyone China. I guess that's what it is. Really bad. Yeah, Tom Nichols made a video on Patreon specifically about how private equity is like ripping Patreon apart. It's too long. A friend of the show, Tom Nichols, makes great, very carefully written, well thought out videos, and I highly recommend you watch it. We are not reaching our full research potential. Having friends go through the process of trying to get grants, lack of funding. Dude, think about it this way. We in America and in the Western world, sitting on a throne of fucking blood and plunder, are not reaching our full research potential. now expand upon that and recognize that there are nations out there with brilliant thinkers that simply have not even reached their industrial potential to even get to that point because they have been kept behind purposefully, not allowed to develop. The amount of wasted potential is so crazy. That is why it is understandable that capitalism was a decent evolution from feudalism, and it is simply outlived its usefulness. But those in this unjust and unequal structure refuse to let go of the reins of power because it benefits them too much. Okay? It is not an accident that collectivization efforts that occurred inside of socialist developments, real existing historical socialist developments, have led countries, despite their external struggles and endless amounts of both internal corruption, but also external affairs that they had to deal with, have led countries from, subsistence farming and peasants into massive players on a global scale. And yes, the USSR is a part of this. The USSR had a shit ton of problems, okay? A shit ton of problems. But it is ridiculous to assume that what they were able to do in such a short period of time, without 400 years of slavery, blood and soil, and fucking imperial conquest, the fact that they were able to go from a bunch of potato farmers to beating America to space, shouts out to Yuri Gagarin, okay, is unimaginable. That's insane. And the same also can be said for China, okay? This doesn't mean that China is a perfect society. Make no mistake. No state is perfect. No state is perfect. But you have to look at the material realities on the ground and what states were able to make of themselves. Not an accident that at least some level of socialist development in mind has led to dramatically different results, dramatically positive results in many instances, okay, for countries that weren't capitalist, okay? There are plenty of capitalist nations that we rarely ever look at on this planet, okay? We never look at the same perspective. We never look at India versus China. Like, why one country was able to develop in the way that it did and the other was not. We never look at other existing capitalist countries that even Americans would be would sit there and consider to be somewhat of a failed state. Most African countries, most Latin American countries, obviously due to colonization, okay, are still existing capitalist nations, and yet you never look at them as such. You never look at that in a similar way. You never analyze it. You just only look at America as though it is an objective, succeeding capitalist country, when we have not had to deal with any of the external factors, and yet we are still a massive fucking failure. Only capitalist countries in existence: America, South Korea, and Japan. Even Canada doesn't exist. Yeah. It's so crazy that we in the United States of America, the victors of the vast empire that we have cultivated do not even see all of the many benefits. Okay? That is what's wild about it. I've said this many times over where, you know, it's like, what good is all of this imperialism if you cannot feed all of your children inside of your own borders? You know, even from a fucking nationalistic fascist point of view, America is a fucking failure, you know? But then again, of course, fascism isn't really about like helping out your fellow citizens. Obviously, they sell it as such, but that's not the case. That's not, it's a means of control.